All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Ring the Bell, your Philly show. Chris C. Francisco, Johnny Macker here with you to wrap up another Phillies week. The Phillies took the series win against Boston, and then this weekend they take 2 out of 3 at the Bronx or in the Bronx against the New York Yankees.
hmm
Um, and not just that, I mean, it's July 27th. The trade deadline's coming up this week. Um, John, we heard some super juicy rumors earlier today coming out of the likes of people like John Heyman. I think who's the other guy? Was it Hector Gomez also
Yep.
came out with another big one as well. It's one that
Couple Bleacher
it's
Report articles,
yep.
a couple other
It's
articles out there too.
it's funny when these things come up because it's if people want to backtrack, they'll listen and they'll watch John and I talk about these same scenarios way before they start getting reported. But before we get talking about the trade rumors, let's just talk about what happened. The Phillies did lose this afternoon against the Yankees in the final game of the series, but the first two, the Phillies did take care of business. I will say though, it was just today was the game I thought for sure the Phillies take the first two on Friday and Saturday. I thought, man, Wheeler's on the bump on Sunday. This actually could be a really nice sweep. Um, John, what were you seeing out of Wheeler today? That's been that was a
Well,
very abnormal start for him.
he can't be great all the time. You saw Cuba a few weeks ago. For the All-Star break, he had
Mm-hmm.
a bad out. You can't do it all the time. In these last three starts, he hasn't really had it. And today versus the Yankees, it really hit him. He's able to work out a lot of jams his last two starts before this game, but
Mm-hmm.
today he just couldn't work out of those jams. You get yourself in those jams. The great pitchers do get out of them, but like I always said, you can't be great all the time. So he just couldn't get out of them today. It's kind of what it felt like. But
Yeah.
it was they won the series, and it's more I look at the offense today. It's like Trey, Bryce, and Kyle. They can't do it every game.
Yeah.
They
0
just
for 12 today.
they went off the past few games, so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to do it every single game. But hey man, it's tough to sweep a major league team. And like
For sure.
I said on last Sunday, I said they were going to go 4-2 this week, and they went 4-2 this week. They played two good baseball teams. They didn't sweep, but they won the series, and that's kind of like what it's the most important thing. And what's going on right now in this Mets game, it looks like the Phillies could possibly stay. They don't lose any ground, where they were at. It seems like it's going to be the Phillies win, Mets win, Phillies lose, Mets
Yeah.
lose. It's going to be one of those type things where until they play each other, you're going to kind of see the distance a little
Mm-hmm.
run away with the division, or possibly it could just be a back and forth thing the whole year, which makes it so exciting to watch. We finally have probably the first time since when was the last time the NL East had like a race, for the
Jeez.
division. I mean, it's been a long time since
Yeah.
last time we actually saw two teams go down, and it's been
Mm-hmm.
almost 20 years since last time we saw the Phillies and Mets going at it,
Right.
for that
Yeah.
top spot. So it's kind of that's great for baseball. It's going to be something that's going to be really fun to
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah, two major markets going at it the entire way through is really good for baseball. Let me ask you, John, because I think I forget what date it was, but I do know since whatever date I forget, it's over the last like maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks that the Rockies and someone else, the Rockies and the White Sox have more wins than the Yankees. Can
Now,
you?
can you see? The Toronto Blue Jays are the best team in baseball, and the
Yeah,
Yankees
Toronto
have
Blue
a
Jays best.
six
I
and a half
know.
game lead in that division. And at
Do,
one point, I think they were below 500, maybe in May at some point. They
man,
are freaking
so
red hot. I mean,
do
it,
do you think Aaron Boone's on the hot seat a little bit?
well, he should be. I don't think he's a coach. But
I agree.
he's a rah rah guy. I don't think he's a rah rah guy for them.
Mhm,
It works sometimes too. You see him get ejected, and boom, the team explodes
mhm.
sometimes. But he's just a rah rah guy for them. He probably is. But he might not be. You got to think about it. We're in February, right? You think about it. We look at it. We're in February, and you see that Yankees team on paper.
Yeah.
That's not this Yankees team that's on paper
No,
right
it's
now.
not. Mm-mm.
Judge, has UCL, something
Mhm.
going on there. They say he doesn't need surgery, probably not surgery, but that's not too good for a guy who plays right
Not.
field.
It's the precursor, man. I mean, the same thing happened with
It do-
Harper with those
it doesn't look
symptoms.
good. And then
Yeah.
you have Stanton. You have Ben
Yeah.
Rice.
Yeah.
Uh, though if Schwarber has to, I mean, if not Schwarber, if Judge has to DH the rest of the season, they get the surgery in the offseason like Bryce Harper, where the hell are those guys going to play? Then you have a
Yeah.
hole in the outfield once again. Luckily it happened right now with this trade deadline, so maybe they'll get a little more. They might try to get an insurance policy here, but but if you look at it, they lose Garrett Cole. They just lost Clark Schmidt, who was having a good year and kind of came alive last year. Luis Gill has been out all year. Jason Dominguez hasn't been the guy. It seems like he's another hyped up Yankees prospect, just like Anthony
Mhm.
Volpe was. They traded for Ryan McMahon, which you kind of thought they were going to get Eugenio Suarez. That was the
I
guy they
thought
were
so
going to,
too.
that
Yeah.
was going to be the guy that they were going to get. But it's not quite the Yankees team you kind of saw from February that you thought was going to be really competing for the World Series. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they do at the deadline, especially with this Judge news. But I don't know Boone's on the hot seat because they'll probably still make the playoffs. They may not win the AL East, but who
Mhm.
knows what could happen? They get hot at the right time. Luis Gill. Boone said in the past, Luis Gill is like a trade deadline acquisition for them too. So he is going to be back at some point. So that's going to
Mhm.
help them a little bit. But they definitely need you know a Zach Gallen, or Mitch Keller, or who's the other guy? Merrill Kelly, one of those guys.
Yeah.
They definitely need another arm at the trade deadline. So we'll see what they're gonna do.
So Phillies are 60-45. Obviously, the Mets right now have that 1-game lead. We just don't know how, obviously, where that's going to go. But nonetheless, still no really big worries right now. I mean, look, we said the Phillies are going to go 4-2 this week, and that's what happened. So,
Yeah, that's a
not a
good week.
bit. It's a very good week. Couple things real quick. I do want to go and kind of backtrack towards Zach Wheeler. His last start before this was against Boston. He went 6 innings, gave up 7 hits, 2 earned, had 10 strikeouts. Before that, kind of like today, he did get rocked against San Diego, where he went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, and 4 earned. And then the 2 previous starts before that were just dominant. So, John, you have any concerns
No,
with
I mean,
today's start compared to the
no.
last couple?
No, I
Yeah.
just, I feel like we're always having this conversation. Really, he puts in a few. I mean, it wasn't even a bad start; it just wasn't, his dominant performances that he,
Hmm.
usually has. So I'm not too concerned. I think, every, month, he or 2 months, he has, a stretch of some bad starts, and we're
Right.
kind of like, I'm like, are we worried here? But I think he's still just as good as he is, and I think it's, just one of those times of the year where he just doesn't have it. He's not as sharp as he is. I think we're gonna be couple weeks ago, we had the conversation. Wow, Zach Wheeler's so freaking good. We'll have that same
Yeah, of
conversation
course.
once again. So I'm not too really concerned. It
Hmm.
happens. I mean, you're 32 starts. It's really hard to do what DeGrom did a couple years ago, or what Bob Gibson did, all those years ago. And some of these guys who had those just ridiculous, 28 straight quality start outings. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen all the time. You don't see that too
Hmm.
much.
Yeah, Zach Wheeler went 5 2/3 today, 5 hits, 4 earned, did have 8 strikeouts. So the strikeout ball was still there. He's up
And the
now
Yankees are good
to
hitters. The Yankees still have, even Judge wasn't there. Paul Goldschmidt's still as good as he ever was. Bellinger's, he's been great, ever since he's went to the Cubs and everything. Chaz is having a pretty great year. Um, and McMahon's gonna live, he's gonna love that short porch out there. So they do have some good hitters still in that lineup. It's not like they're a bunch of jokes.
right. So I don't really have any issues with Wheeler. It's just a question I wanted to throw out there. I will say I do. I think it's just me always worrying about the guy. I'm still concerned about Ranger Suarez. I get that he was better the other yesterday with the Yankees or against the Yankees. I get it. Um, was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. He threw 5 2/3, 7 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. My issue is throwing over 100, almost 110 pitches in 5 innings. It's just that I just have a feel. I have a worry that just like his last start, he's having a lot of trouble locating his pitches. And I don't know what's going on, but he's moving further and further away, John, from his fastball. He's throwing a lot of breaking balls lately. I mean, more than normal if you look at his charts. do you think he's? I mean, like we heard before the All Star break, that his shoulder and back were an issue. Do you think this is still
I just
maybe an
don't think he's
underlying
built.
issue?
Just don't think he's built for 32
I
games
agree. I
starting pitching.
agree.
I just think that's what it is. And if you look at his career, I mean, he has like a 4.5 plus ERA in the second half. I mean, last year I think he had over a 5 ERA in the second half. Then, the previous 2 seasons he didn't have a great ERA in the second half. So I
Right.
think he's just not built to be a second, to pitch 32 starts.
Hmm.
And that's, I know that he's been, he was great, and you're throwing him those 7 innings where and he was having those ridiculous, 10 straight quality
Yeah.
starts. He was
Yep.
unbelievable. But again, maybe you shouldn't have been extending him that, long. Maybe he should have been on a pitch count, or 5 inning minimum, to start the year. Then as you get into August, maybe you start stretching him out a little more and you start throwing him those seven
Hmm.
innings to get him ready for the playoffs. I just don't think they handled him. I don't think he's built to throw, 150 plus innings a year.
I mean, based on what we've seen already, I know it's hard to kind of project later on. If you're a team in the offseason looking to sign a lefty a starter like Ranger, what kind of contract is this guy looking at?
I mean, he has he's Boris's age now, so now he's going. They're going for a payday, and I think it could be one of those situations where you know the analytics guys are going to look at everything about Ranger Suarez, and they're going to tell the front offices, and they're like, "Hey, this guy isn't worth that $30 million,
Do you see
that
him taking like
25."
a 1 year like Blake Snell type like show me deal?
I think I can see him taking 3 years and
Hmm.
getting a 3 year deal with opt outs. Yeah, especially with Boris, being his agent. But yeah, it's just teams are going to look at that. With today's game and how analytic driven it is, they're going to look at it and be like, "Hey, this guy is. We're looking to be a playoff team. This guy may not be able to help us come playoff time." He has had success and he's not giving up runs in the playoffs, but he's gone. I think I looked at it the other day. I think 3 times in the entire playoff career, he's thrown more than 50, or not. One time in his entire playoff career, he's thrown more than 15 outs, or 2 times. It's not many times. He's usually going 5 innings. He's not going long in the game. And come playoff time, I know you have to have a great bullpen, but that bullpen needs to be fresh in the bullpen. And a starting pitcher needs to go at least 6 innings to keep that bullpen fresh, because you're not going to
Yeah.
throw those, you're going to throw maybe to Ryan Kirkering there in the 6th inning, and you probably don't want to throw in Ryan Kirkering in the 6th inning. You want him for the 8th inning, the 9th inning, even the 7th inning, and then you have to use him in the 6th inning. Then that means another guy's coming, another guy's, and those guys are going to have to pitch almost every single day if you have a guy going 5 innings.
Hmm. I agree with you. I think it's gonna be such a puzzling situation to pay attention to at Ranger, because it might depending on how the rest of this season goes. I mean, look, he could either have an opportunity to come back to the Phillies with a significantly lower number, or I mean, again, like we said, depending if he's from here on out, he has the rest of the second half like his first half was.
Oh,
You're
he's getting
looking at
paid and he's off
thirty
the
million
Phillies, and,
dollars a
and we're
year.
we're thankful, but it's you know players are who they are. We've always said it. Like Nick Castellanos is who he is. He's going to have
Hmm.
that what he has in the year. And so far, since we've seen Ranger as a starting pitcher, that second half he has not been the same pitcher as he was in his first half.
Agreed. All right, so let's move over to the offense, because I think we owe some flowers and an apology, maybe some chocolates. It depends what his preference is. Look, and I'm just going to say this right now. He's outside of Bryce. He's my favorite Philly player, since Ryan Howard. Um, JT Realmuto is gotten somehow located DeLorean and hopped back in time, to where the dude's a mutant. He might be right now hitting better than he's ever hit as a Philly right now in the month of July. He's arguably I think he is the best player in baseball this entire month. If you look at his last 15 games, John, he's slashing 355, 365, 535. In his last 30 games, he's slashing 331, 357, 460. John, what the heck is going on here?
He's found something, man. Found a youth, and I'm definitely a guy who's probably the most critical on JT. And it's not because I
Yeah,
think he's a bad player. I
no,
just think a guy making $24 million a
yeah.
year should be a 300 hitter. And I get it. He brings the defense along with him, but you don't get paid to play defense. You get paid for the bat. And being the highest, and to this day, he's still the highest ever paid catcher
Hmm.
in the game of baseball, and I just don't think he was a great. And I think he became a prisoner of the moment because at the time there was not many great catchers.
For
Now,
sure.
when you look at today's game, there's a lot more great catchers, especially
Yeah, the
hitting wise.
position's getting much
The
better now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he became a prisoner of the moment where it's like, oh, this guy is so good. But in reality, when you look at the history of catchers, and especially the Hall of Fame catchers who are great hitters, he really wasn't that great. He was just great in the time that he was around. And the
Hmm.
Phillies, you had to pay the guy. He was the best catcher in baseball at the time when you paid him. But especially this year, it was like, oh, great here. This is they paid him for the years that he didn't get paid, and now we're gonna bite the bullet because he's not the same player. But now he's turned the corner. Since June, he's kind of turned and come a really, really, really great piece of this lineup, and especially he's one of the guys. If you want to win a World Series, he needs to be hot. He needs to be hitting. He
Oh,
needs to be playing
absolutely.
great defense. He's an
Yeah.
important player, especially when you have a lot of your money allocated to that
Hmm.
specific player. He needs to be playing like he is now. And I think if he's playing like this the rest of the season, I mean, they're going to be, in some trouble. The other team's going to be in trouble, especially if Schwarber continues to be an absolute monster. If Turner continues, have a great year, and Harper continues on this heater, and
Hmm.
whoever they add at the deadline, it's getting to the point where I really do think they're going to add a bat this time. Where I was kind of skeptical that they weren't going to make any, moves for a bat, and they were just going to go after the bullpen. But I think they are
Yeah.
now. I think they can be a serious World Series contender, but I can't say they will be a World Series contender. I don't know if they'll get that far right now unless they get that extra right-handed bat and they upgrade this
Yeah.
bullpen.
And I,
But
I
he's a
don't.
big JT's a huge piece in that. If he's playing this way, it's
Yeah.
gonna it makes them so much better.
I agree, and it's crazy. I don't want to say it's a blessing in disguise, but Alec Boehm getting hurt may have opened up the eyes of Dombrowski when otherwise he was probably really only zoned in on just bullpen help. But when you lose Alec Boehm, obviously it's great. When a guy like JT Realmuto gets hot, but still you can't count on a 34-year-old catcher to stay like this until October. It's very clear the
Especially a
Phillies
guy
are.
who catches freaking 6 days a week.
Oh my
He's
gosh, I
just
know.
catching every day at this age, which Schwarber kind of puts him in that pigeonhole because you can't really sign a good, backup catcher because you have Schwarber as your DH, or, where you see most teams, who have two good catchers now, and one guy's
Yeah.
DH and the other guy's, playing three, especially like Salvador Perez or Cal Raleigh. Like those guys are playing 7 days a week because they're
Yep.
DH and 3 or 4 of those days out
Yep.
during that week.
Yep. Super smart to do that with those catchers. By the way, JT made an unreal athletic play today, tagging out. One, it was a great throw by Rojas. It was a little high, obviously, but boy, for JT to know exactly where he was and to know where Bellinger
If Ross can
was
figure out
was
that
amazing.
Batman hit 270, dude, that guy can be an
Yeah,
unbelievable player for a team.
I agree.
I mean, he's hitting
Um,
270 stealing bases. He's never going to hit for power, but you're playing. He is a great defender, and he can. I mean, his arm's unbelievable too. Some of those throws you see, and I'm like, wow. But
mhm.
he just can't figure it out the plate, man. It's just one. He just
Going back to JT right now, he's got 7 home runs, 38 RBIs. He's hitting 273 with an on base percentage of about to hit 330. John, I mean, before this season, we were pretty much saying if they get JT back, you give him a year and you try to get, like you said, a good backup that can replace him in a year or two. Now,
yeah.
as we
You
are
have
here in July,
Taillon in a year, 2 years probably. You have Taillon ready to
yep,
play,
right,
and it may be a thing where, especially, I said it before. 18 years. I mean, 18 million for 2 years. You front load that contract. You give them maybe
oh
10.
yeah,
You give them maybe 10 million the first year. And then 8 million the next year. Then I'm not sitting here like maybe give him 20, maybe 22, but you front load that contract so that way, when he's 36 years old,
yep,
he's making significantly less. And maybe you sign a good backup catcher for next year, you get him off his feet a little bit to keep him fresh more. And, probably in 2 years, you have Taillon as his backup, maybe even, JT's making $8 million and he's being more of the backup because, Taillon's, maybe he's just the prospect, we've been waiting for, a big
yeah.
prospect back. But he's also a guy where if JT can keep doing it, he could be a Yadier Molina type player where he can,
So I
you
was
know,
going to ask you, do you see JT maybe trending towards like a Salvador Perez type?
yeah, or a guy can just play forever, or Yadi,
Yeah.
he could never hit for power, but I mean, even when he was 36, 37, he was still hitting above 250. If he wasn't making too
Mhm.
much money, if JT's hitting 250 and he's still playing great defense, I mean, I would keep that guy here for a while. Maybe you trade Tait, or maybe you transfer Tait to a first baseman, and you have Harper become a full-time DH or something. Possibility, or you send Tait off to somewhere else in a trade.
Yeah.
But it could, the way he's playing right now, you could sit there and how can you not give him 2 more years, and maybe you play it on a 2-year basis. If he plays another great 2 years,
Mhm.
defensively and offensively, he's hit above 250. You can't. Oh, we still have a great defensive catcher, and you don't have to pay him a crap load of money anymore.
Yeah. So looking at, Yadi Molina's ages 35 to 38 season, he was averaging 11 home runs, 55 RBIs. He was at a 262 batting average. That's not bad for a starting catcher
And guy was
making
still
8 to
probably
10 million a
and
year
the guy probably was still the best defensive catcher in baseball his last year of the season.
for
I mean,
sure.
he still had a hose. I mean, it was
Let me see what Yadi was making those last couple years. Yeah, so oh god, a lot. So in the 35 to 38, 20 million, 20 million, 20, and then 9. So they gave him a lot of money those last few years. Where I think it's gonna be the complete, like you said, it might be the complete opposite for JT, who, like you said, I mean, they might front load that, give him a 2-year deal, maybe what, 10 to 15 million that first year, and then
yeah.
8 to
I mean,
10 maybe the
even
second.
if you want to give him a three, give him a 3-year deal, and you give him $32 million. I'm sure he'll say yes, and you front load that contract where he's making 14 million the first year. The second year he's making 10
Yeah,
million. Then he's making 8 million the last year, and
yeah,
that's great, because then
I
you
think it's
can
fair.
allocate more money elsewhere to maybe if JT's only making 12 million this year, maybe spend 10 more million dollars on
Mhm.
another bullpen arm that they didn't spend the money on, because you had the guy like that, or you have Castellanos. I mean, you're freeing up a lot of money soon.
Mhm.
You're going to be able to make a lot, have more flexibility, especially if you get, you knock down JT's, from 24 to 14 million. That's an extra $10 million you can pay somebody else.
Mhm. Just breaking news for those who care from Jeff Passan just now. Seth Lugo and the Kansas City Royals are finalizing a multi-year contract extension. He was supposed to be one of the best trade deadline candidates, but he will remain in Kansas City.
Royals are playing good baseball, and they're not out of it. So it's kind of, I don't think they're going to be sellers. It'd have been great if Phillies could have landed a Miguel Garcia who can play a little bit of outfield. You throw him out and left or something. But I think
Hmm.
they're still going to be in it. All the way to the rest of the season. I
Hmm.
think they're only a couple games, 3 or 4 games out of that wild card spot in the AL. It's not really too
I,
competitive there.
yeah, I would like to see how much that deal is worth because that could be maybe sort of a precursor to what we could see um, Ranger, I guess, asking for.
Yes, they're
So I'm,
similar. They're similar,
they
in the
are,
respects that they were bullpen guys who became starters, and
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
superstars, but they're pretty damn good pitchers.
yeah. How old does Seth Lugo? That's a big deal
He's
too.
like 35.
Oh, okay, so he's not going to get that much money. But he's having a really good year. 7-5, a
His last
2.9
3 years as a
ERA.
starter, he's been really good.
Yeah. So I don't see any numbers yet. So no, I mean, Ranger will get more money because he's much younger, but I do want to see what a guy like Seth Lugo is going to get right now. All right. So also, I mean, not much else to add for the Trey Turners, the Harpers, and the Schwarbers of the world.
Great weekends, even though they
Great
weren't great
weekends. Yeah.
today, but they had a great week. They were all great this week. So
Yeah. John, every week, Kyle Schwarber's contract's going higher and higher. And
Uh,
so,
yeah, but then he
um,
goes in that stretch. He always does like a 2 week stretch where he just can't do anything,
yeah, let's
But
see what that
those
comes up.
stretch that stretch though this year was with Harper out in the lineup too, though. So that maybe
Yeah,
it is. I mean, I think they're gonna keep him. I think
I do too. I
I
think they're
don't
going to
think
keep JT, and I think they're going to keep.
I don't think Cassidy's here next year, and I think they'll be able to move that contract, and they won't have to eat too much of his contract at all. Somebody will be willing to pay
I
him for one
agree.
year, $20 million, or even if it's $15 million, somebody will take that back.
Yeah, I agree. I think Casty's. I mean, I wonder. I
If
know
I'm the
the
Marlins,
Phillies aren't saying it, and it's the first year they're not coming out and kind of defending it. This might be the year they actually find a way to move Casty. because it's been coming up a lot, John. You don't hear Dave coming out and saying, Nick's a very important part of this roster. We're not looking to trade him.
If
Last year
Nick
he did
go
that.
if Nick goes, you might see Harper back in the outfit. If you get rid of
Yeah.
Castellanos, you
Then
probably
Harper will
definitely
play right field.
Harper is definitely back
Or
in right
Kemp
field.
plays right field and Gino plays third.
Yeah, I mean, how about Kemp? I
Two
I
two
mean,
dingers today.
I mean that was like the storyline
Three
of him.
home runs this weekend.
That was the storyline in or this week, right? This week.
Yeah. Yep.
That was the story of him in the minor leagues was that the guy could hit. The guy could hit for power. He the last 2 years he was been very good. I think he had like 13 home runs in like
Mm-hmm.
25, 30 games or whatever it was, 60
Yeah.
games, something, whatever it
Yep.
was in the minor leagues this year. Before he getting caught up, he was absolutely crushing the ball. And it's encouraging to see the guy because the Phillies needed a bat like that. Whether he's a great player or just a simple role bench player, the Phillies didn't have that bat in lineup ever. They have not, and that could be something
Mm-hmm.
big. Where a situation comes up, and you have Marsh in the game against a left-handed bullpen pitcher. Maybe you bring in Kemp, and you
Yep.
move, or then Rojas goes out and plays center field or something, or it's somebody else, the one, Stock comes up because that's not, he hasn't been hitting at all this year. That's the situation.
Right.
He can play second base too. So he's played second base in the minors. So there's a lot of, situations, and who knows how long this boom thing is where you may need him. And maybe you're not able to get the bat in the outfit that you want. And that's the guy who you're riding with in the playoffs. And he could end up being like one of those big things where, the Phillies got lucky and they found somebody. Like you see all these other teams, they just find guys that come out of nowhere and contribute and just do things for World Series winning teams. And maybe he's one of those guys who can help the Phillies out and win a World Series.
Totally 100% agree. It looks like it's rumored right now Seth Lugo 3-year deal in the $20 million a year range. So it's a lot of money for a 35-year-old.
Yeah, we're seeing pitchers pitch till they're 40 years old now and pitching
Oh
well
yeah.
until
Yeah.
they're 40.
Yeah. Um Anything else here? Nothing. But I think starting tomorrow, we're going to start seeing some action. So let's kind of start. Maybe let's really talk about that. We'll wrap up the show this way. John, we
Perfect.
finally heard what?
This is the exciting stuff.
I know. So we've heard now from multiple people that out of nowhere now, it looks like even though the Mariners are still the front runners to bring him back to Seattle, Eugenio Suarez is now apparently from an interest standpoint to the Phillies, where that's quote unquote the Phillies will do what it takes to get him here. In your opinion, John, one, are you accepting to bring Gino here? And two,
Yes.
in your opinion, what is whatever it takes to you?
I mean, based on what has been seen recently, they were at AAA. So they were scouting AAA. I don't know who they were scouting. Mick Abel was pitching, so that definitely is a telltale sign. They probably wanted to see Mick Abel pitch, so he's probably in that deal because they
Yeah.
could have easily showed up to a Painter game. So I don't think they're interested in Painter, and it could be from a point where they just don't think they're going to be able to get Painter in that deal. And for a guy that's a rental, I think Mick Abel and another top 10 prospect that's not a top 100 prospect is probably a good deal, but it may be to the point where the Phillies will do whatever it takes. And I think that's probably Nick Abel and Aiden Miller, which
Mm,
I'm kind of okay with because Miller hasn't really performed in Double A this year, and he could just be one of those years where he's just learning the game of baseball down in the minor leagues and he's just having a bad year. Next year he shows up and he's crushing it in Double A and gets promoted to Triple A, and in 2 years he's on the team. It could he's still young, but
mm.
it's kind of a thing when you have a guy like Arun Escobar who can play third base and can play second base. Maybe you know at the point where we're probably gonna have Alec Boehm back next year still. So it's like
Yeah.
Miller's still kind of blocked. Arun's probably going to be in Double A by the end of this year, and he's probably going to be on the same path that Miller is on, anyways. So it might be a thing where they say, "All right, we have a younger prospect that maybe we'll keep and we'll get rid of Miller. He's not really performing well. He's still one of the top prospects in baseball. So you get rid of him at that point, and you give up Mick Abel, you get him, and that's kind of like where it's going to take because it looks like, especially for, I think I saw the Cubs were probably willing to give up Owen. Casey or something, or Casey, Owen Casey. I forget what
Yeah.
his name was, but he's like a top like 30 prospect in
Yeah.
baseball. So they're willing to
Hmm.
give up that. So you may have to give up, especially the Cubs who have a top farm system in baseball. So
For
it
sure.
might, for whatever it takes, it might be Mick Abel and Aiden Miller, which would probably be, and I'm okay with doing that for the guy who has 35 home runs, leads baseball in RBIs, and it's a
Hmm.
much needed right-handed bat, especially power bat in this lineup that this team could really use come playoff time.
So with all of this said, I know you and I
And
were
maybe
talking
and
about.
maybe get Shelby Miller in that deal too, and you throw in another, top 20 prospect, top 30 prospect of the Phillies organization. Get, Shelby Miller in there too.
Yes, for the love of God, please get me that. That would be great. Um, what would you put the percentage, in your opinion, that they actually land Gino?
Like 45. I don't know. I wouldn't want to say 50% because there's three teams and two other teams have better farm systems than the Phillies. So if it really comes down
Yeah.
to a bidding war, I think those two teams would win just the bidding war over the Phillies. I mean, even if it was like Phillies like, hey, we'll give you Painter, we'll give you Miller, I still think those teams could give you two other prospects, that are, all three of the values. They'll give you three prospects who are the value of
Hmm.
having two prospects. You get three guys in return. So I think it's going to come down to the bidding war, and they'll win that bidding war over the Phillies.
I agree. I agree.
And
I
it
think it
sucks because you're getting mad like, oh, it's Dave, but like those teams just have better farm systems to
for
to
sure.
to get it and outbid the Phillies
Yeah.
into it, where the Phillies would have to deplete their entire farm system to even compete with
Right.
that, and then maybe you don't end up with the bullpen on, which I think that's more of a necessity at
That's
this
more of a
moment.
necessity
And
right
you
now.
can still get another bat, like hey, you can get Anel Cruz hits for a little power, maybe you put him in the Phillies lineup, and he's not a 220
Another
hitter.
lefty.
He's not, and they love all the lefties, but
They
he's
love
not a
all of them.
he's
Yeah.
not a 220 hitter, there he's a 250 hitter because he's surrounded by a lot better hitters in this lineup. Or you get a guy like Robert who it seems like he's in a purgatory there where he can't
Hmm.
perform because he's seen all the best pitches that pitcher has to offer because he has nothing around him. And maybe you bring him here and he stays healthier because it's not all the he doesn't have to go out of this world to do everything for a team, and he hits a little bit better here. You have Robert, and especially last like month he's been on fire. You have Robert as your 6-hole hitter, 7-hole hitter. I mean, you
Yeah.
think about that, and the great thing about Robert is if he's not performing and he doesn't perform and help you at all whatsoever, there's a team option and he's out of here. Oh no,
For sure.
Cruz, he's not even in arbitration yet, so you still have
Hmm.
years of him. So that there's those things, especially if you get a Cruz, you have him next year and he's making no money. Oh look, we can re-sign Schwarber, so we have a ton of money, here. So that's kind of like where I'm like they can get another bat elsewhere who could be a major upgrade still to this lineup, even though it's not Suarez.
I agree. So logically speaking, if you had to pinpoint, what do you actually see unfolding with the Phillies before the deadline on the 31st?
If I had to predict something, I think they get David Bednar. I think he's going to be the cheapest, and he's a great closer. So you have a great closer. I think he's the most logical,
Yeah.
guy they get. Not going to cost too much. Going to cost a little bit. Maybe a Gene
Hmm.
Cabrera is a top. Maybe that's somebody. The scouts were there watching Gene Cabrera pitch. They were down there watching. God, I don't know who else they were watching, but I'm assuming the Pirates scouts were there. They were watching Gene Cabrera pitch. So that's
Yeah.
probably the guy that they're interested in if they're asking for Bednar. Um, I would love to get Santana in that deal too. Santana in
Oh,
that deal would be
I
another great
agree.
pickup. So you got two more arms, probably not super expensive for both of them. You had two bullpen arms. You have David Robertson coming in, so that's an upgrade over a few other guys. So you kind of
Hmm.
reshape this bullpen to help out Tanner Banks, Ryan Kirkran, Strom, who've tried to who've held it down pretty well this year.
Yeah.
They've all been pretty good. Tanner Banks, he may have like a 3-4 ERA, but he's been damn good. From what we
Yeah.
expected out of the guy. He's been really he's helped the team out tremendously in high leverage situations. So I think those are two things. And the hitter part is weird. It's really weird because I just don't believe a lot of these hitting. It's gonna come down to a lot of bidding wars, especially the Mets are interested in Robert. The Mets have a good farm system too, so it's gonna be one of those things where it might be a lot to get Robert because you have to outbid the Mets for Robert.
Hmm.
And I hitting wise, I really can't call it. And I don't want to say
I can't either.
it really. I expect them more to add bullpen. I think that's an easier thing to see is adding a Bednar, and I think I saw a report today. I forget who said it. They're looking for one more high leverage inning high leverage inning guy, so it might only be Bednar, and they thought David Robertson was, he still has it, which, by everybody, all the scouts shown there, and everybody, who watched him pitch over in Rhode Island, they said he still has it. So it could be a
Hmm.
thing where, maybe him not pitching all year, he could be that extra high leverage inning guy. And you have Kirk and Strom and those five guys. I think that can help you, even if Robertson's your sixth inning guy and Banks is your sixth inning guy, and you have the other three, being more the seventh, eighth, ninth inning guys. But
Agreed. Yeah.
I just
Um,
the hitting one's really. I want to say, yeah, they'll get Gino. Because I think they really are going to go all in
I
for him.
think they're gonna go all out for it.
But it's going to be like, I think he's my first priority, and I think he's probably the first table that falls because I think it's going to come down to it. So I think they're going to go after him really hard. And if they don't get him, that's when you'll see the next moves kind of unfold. And even Bednar, I think Bednar is the last guy they add. I think that's like if they add
Agreed.
Gino, then they
Hmm.
add Bednar.
For
If they
sure.
can't
If
get
they get
Gino,
Gino, they're gonna get not a lower end bullpen arm, but they're gonna get a very, like you said, a very high leverage one.
and Bednar is that guy. I know he had struggled
Yeah,
last year,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
the previous year he was unbelievable, and then this year
Hmm.
he's been unbelievable. This year,
Yep.
so and it's a guy who has years of control, which would be perfect because they need a bullpen guy with years of control. And don't forget another one too is maybe they're only looking for one high average inning guy because they really think highly of Gage Wood because a lot of people think this guy could pitch this year and help the Phillies out this year in the bullpen. So maybe it's they go after him where he's like Garrett Crochet, where he comes up early and he pitches out of the bullpen early, and then they send him back down to the minor leagues where they stretch him out as a starter and get him ready as a starter next year.
I agree. I think if they go out and they get a Bednar, to me, that's the guy that they expected Romero to be.
Yeah.
I
And
really
Ramirez
think
probably the guy who's if they get Bednar, he's probably the odd man out of the bullpen because
he's the
Seth
odd man
Johnson
out.
hasn't been terrible. Robert, I know he gave up 2 runs yesterday. He hasn't been completely terrible. Lazar
Yeah,
hasn't been complete. Like the other guys haven't been completely terrible. So I think Romano is probably the guy who's gone first, when it comes down to it. And then when Robertson comes up, I don't know who will be the next guy out of there.
yeah, I agree. It's going to be an interesting decision that's going to be coming up for
The
Topper
Mets took
or
the lead.
yeah, no, I saw. Um, all right. Other than that, John, I mean, we are going to be back here this week. You got Sanchez, Lazardo, and Taiwan Walker as an order
Hey,
against
tip
the
offs
Red
to Taiwan
Sox.
Walker. The guy, he may only be giving you 4 or 5 innings, but he's doing. I mean, the guy's pitching well this year. He's not, the $18 million deserving, but
No,
he's pitched well.
yeah, he's not killing them. I mean, he's not.
He's certainly
Lazardo has
pitching
been
better
more
than Manola was
shaky.
pitched. He's
Yeah.
pitching better than Nola was pitching. When it came
Yep.
down to it.
Yep.
But Lazardo has been shaky. There's something going on.
He's
There's
tipping when he
some
is
on
not in the
base.
windup.
Yeah.
Something is going on
And it
again
seems like
where
it's more than
they're figuring it out.
one guy on the Phillies that
Right.
are doing it. So it's
Yeah.
like the pitching coach needs to figure this stuff out. Like
Hmm.
why are these guys doing it? How do you get them out of doing these things?
I mean, I don't think I was talking to you about it. I was talking to somebody else where when Lazardo is in the windup, he's almost unhittable. But the second he gets to that stretch, John, he's doing something where it's Jekyll and Hyde at its peak because he just can't pitch out of the
Yeah, the one
stretch.
thing that really bugged me was saying that uh Cora was calling out, giving signals to the second baseman, but like I don't think he was giving signals to
I
the
don't
second
think
baseman
so either.
because that happened. It happened so fast. He gives it so by the time the second baseman sees it, and the guy was already starting his load. He's not looking at the second baseman for the signs.
Right.
I think he was giving out signs for something, but I don't think he was calling out what Lazardo was doing. I think they already know what Lazardo is doing, and someone else is giving those signs, or somebody else is, or they can see from second base, when
Yeah.
or first base or somewhere somebody's is doing something. But yeah, I mean. You heard earlier he was tipping his pitches. It's something the pitching coach like. We're like, you're the pitching coach. Like this is like your job
Yeah.
here. Like you like
Agree.
help this guy out. Maybe Noel was tipping pitches. That's why he's giving up all these freaking home runs all the time. You
Yeah.
never know. Because if you think about it, since Compton has been here, Nola has not been the same pitcher. He's got worse. With this guy, is this guy. You know, the reason why the bullpen's always so bad, where they can't turn some of these prospects into decent, bullpen arms. There's not much success you hear stories besides Sanchez and Ranger, and I think it's
It's
just
yeah.
because those guys work hard. That's why they're so good. It's not because the
Mhm.
pitching coach is really doing anything. I think it's like, come on,
Yeah.
like a guy like Lazar's tipping pitches. You want to figure it out, man. Like this is like it's been going
Yeah,
on for months. It's going on for months now.
exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. And we're getting to the point now where everyone's like, oh, well, he's had 4 or 5, only like 3, 4 or 5 really bad starts. Yeah, but now those bad starts are starting to be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah, it's so like
That's
the
the
first
problem.
month and a half he was unbelievable, and
Oh
then
yeah,
since then he hasn't been unbelievable. So it's like it's been almost another month and a half where it's kind of he's great for 2 outings and then
yeah,
bad for another 2 outings,
yep,
and then he's
yep,
good for an outing, bad for the next one.
yeah. And that's gonna be a worry come postseason time.
Yeah, but I
Because
think
if
he'd be great in the bullpen. He has the electric stuff that you want out of a bullpen guy.
mhm.
But that's the problem. If he's tipping pitches with a guy on base, then what happens if they bring him in with a guy on base?
Right, that's my major concern. Yeah.
Because he
Um,
would be good out of the bullpen, but if he's tipping pitches, then gotta figure that one out. You gotta figure
yeah,
that
you
out,
gotta
especially
figure
going
that
pro.
out.
Because he's probably going in the bullpen. I mean, he's probably the guy going to the bullpen. Nola just doesn't have stuff that a bullpen pitcher has, so he's not going in the bullpen. He'll be
Mhm.
your fourth starter yeah, on the team.
Yeah. So the Phillies have a 3-game set coming up against the White Sox in Chicago, and then they're going to close out the weekend against the massively slumping Detroit Tigers. We won't predict the Tiger series now because that's August 1st, which means we will be on here doing a show before Friday, no matter what, whether it's recapping the White Sox or it's recapping the White Sox and a couple other quick shows discussing some trades. This is a big week. So we're going to try to do our best to provide as much info as possible and be available to you guys. And then we'll talk about the Detroit Tigers series probably sometime Thursday. So, John, what are you expecting in Chicago? I'm
Hey,
expecting Luis
they're hot.
Robert to switch dugouts.
That'd be cool. That's a cool thing to see. Like where it'd be cool if they got the trade done in the middle of the game and he just walks over to the other dugout. That'd be cool to see. But
That would be pretty
not
neat.
gonna happen. But that'd be something
Right.
cool to see.
Yeah, that's something that you want to see. Like, oh, look at that. He's in the Phillies dugout.
He's
Oh,
like
he's
high
not
five.
just
He's like
visiting.
hugging all his guys, and all of a sudden you
Yeah.
see him walk across the field and start hugging everybody on the Phillies. Like that's something baseball. You want as a baseball fan, even though it's kind of like corny and maybe not respectful or but it's like cool. Like it's gonna be all over social media. The guys walking to the other dugout or something.
Yep.
That's a cool thing, especially to expand the game of baseball. You see something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I think they
Yeah.
sweep them. They are
Me
playing
too.
pretty good. They are playing pretty good baseball though recently.
Hmm.
The White Sox, but I do expect the Phillies. I think they're just
They're
far
playing
far
better
better team.
baseball than the Yankees. That's for sure.
I think they won 5 in a row last week or something like that, and they scored like 5 runs in those 5+ runs in those games, and they were the first team it was something like
Let me
they
check
were the first
because
team in
I
a long
think you're
time
right.
to win 5 straight games, scoring 5+ runs or something like that, or win by 5+runs.
Yeah,
It
I'm
was
looking
something.
right now.
It was a weird. It was one of those weird.
I
It's
mean,
one
they're
of those
six
weird.
and four in their last 10. I know they lost the last 2 in a row, but you are right there. I mean, they're playing better baseball the last 3 weeks.
They have some
Um,
decent young talent they've been calling up,
yeah,
and they Adrian Hauser has been pitching well for them, and then Savali they got in that one deal.
yeah, yeah.
But let me
But
see
all
what
right,
that was. Let me see what it was. They won. Yeah, they won 5 straight or 4 straight. They won 4 straight, and they were had a chance to win 5 straight.
okay,
That's what
okay,
it was.
all right. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. I can't see how they don't sweep the White Sox. I'd be kind of disappointed if they didn't. It'd be a good, I think, Wednesday, or I'm sorry, Tuesday will be a really good opportunity for Lazardo to get off the schneid a little bit. The White Sox might be the kind of perfect team for him to get his mind back on track, get some momentum behind him. That would be really nice. But I expect a dominant performance out of Chris Sanchez. At this point, I've reached the level of Chris Sanchez and it might be wrong,
He's our
but
turn
I thought
screwball.
this last season when Sanchez pitches, I expect Zach Wheeler type results.
Yeah, it's and they win when he pitches, which is like
Yeah,
the
they
great
do.
they do. But it's kind of getting to the point where like he's like almost like the National League Tariq Skubal. I mean,
I agree.
he has
That's a
that
great
change.
comp.
He
That's a
has a
good
great
point.
changeup. He throws that sinker. He's throwing with harder velocity now because he worked his
Hmm.
butt off to put on some weight and be able to throw a little harder. But yeah, he really is like he's been pitching like one of the best pitchers. He's probably a top 5 pitcher and definitely top 10 pitcher in the game of baseball. And he might be working his way towards that top 5, pitcher.
I,
He's the best pitcher on the Phillies right now. I mean,
yeah,
Wheeler, he really is. But that's great when you have your number 2 starters that good.
he's going to get a lot of Cy Young votes. Chris Sanchez, if he continues this
He's
way.
probably second in the NL, I would think, right now in the running.
I
Maybe Wheeler's still ahead of him in the odds because he's Wheeler and they're expecting Wheeler to probably be better throughout the rest of the season. But he's
well, Skeens.
the second. I'm saying second.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
So
Yes, you're right. He's
it's
second.
probably those 3 in the top 3. But it's
Right. Right.
him and Wheeler are probably a coin flip for second right now.
I agree. Mhm. No
But
doubt.
Skeens is probably going to win it. I mean, guy's a sub 2 ERA. I mean, how do you not give it to the guy? Even though he has like no wins, how do you not give it to the guy who's a sub 2 ERA and
Yeah,
carrying the team?
I want everyone to realize all the people, I am an old school type baseball player, but there's one thing I have adapted on, that's wins for a pitcher. And if you need any more understanding of why wins don't matter, Paul Skeens
Well, CC Sabathia
2025.
told Bob Costas a different story today during his Hall of Fame interview with Hall of Fame interview today on MLB Network.
Oh, very nice.
Because they were just talking about how rare it is to win 20 games and how Sideburner says you're an ace, you got to go win 20 games a year, and he's like, oh, okay, that made me want to go out there and he says, I think it's still most important that the pitcher gets the wins because that means you're pitching.
Wow, interesting.
He says if wins are important because that means you're pitching deep in the ball game. So you may only give up 2 runs, your offense may not be helping you out, but come 7th inning, they may get when you get taken out, or 8th inning when you get taken out, they may sneak in a run for you to a run or two for you to win those games. That's kind of what it means by
So
it.
I agree with him if the game was still that way.
Yeah, that's and he said they don't care about getting wins anymore in this. That's the
No.
thing. They don't care about getting wins. They care about, the analytics of like you gotta take your starter out once the third
Yeah.
time comes around. They're not the same, it's kind of that standpoint. We need his innings later in the year, not in the beginning of the year. So that's probably where the standpoint where they don't pitch only. But he says they don't care about getting wins anymore. I cared about getting 20 wins. So I was going out there to pitch my best and continue pitching best into, and CC the back is like Max Scherzer, like in his prime. Don't fucking come to that fucking mound and take me out of this goddamn game. Like no, I'll tell you when I'm good to come out of the game, and when they were good to come out of the game is the 7th, 8th inning. That's when they wanted to come out of the game.
Mm-hmm. I understand where CC's coming from, but that's great. CC deserves to be in. I'm
And
happy
I
he
got
got
to
in.
find the video, but John Smalls was just talking about pitchers nowadays, and that was another great thing.
Oh,
And
if you find
and
that, send it to me.
and I think it was CC. CC said the same thing too, where they were just saying they don't teach pitchers how to pitch anymore. They teach velocity, and that's why the
Yeah,
guys are
just throw the ball.
to throw the ball as hard as you can instead of pitching
Mhm.
velocity. He said Nolan Ryan was a freak.
Yeah,
They're still going to be freaks. And you know who that freak is? That freak is Paul Skeens. That dude is built. If you look at his legs, you look at how he warms up, you look at it, he is a massive man. He's built to throw 100 miles an hour. And some guys aren't built to throw 100 miles an hour. And that's why you see all these injuries. Guy who's 5'11" shouldn't be throwing 100 miles an hour. You're gonna destroy your arm, and you're not gonna last as long because you're using so much more work because you're so much smaller. So you're using so much more of your body. Your body's gonna be destroyed by the time you're 35 years old. But a guy like Skeens, who's built to pitch that way, he's built to be a 100-mile-an-hour thrower,
yeah,
just like Nolan Ryan was built to be 100 mile. You look at
yes,
them; they were thick human beings. They were
yeah,
freaks. There's still
yep,
gonna be freaks. But now there's 20 pitchers comparable to Nolan Ryan. When Nolan Ryan was pitching, he was the only guy. He was the
yeah.
freak.
He was one of
Some
one,
yeah, and these guys aren't Nolan Ryan. They're not, just freak of natures.
right?
They're just being thrown, to throw 100 miles. They throw
Yeah.
100 miles, yeah, throw as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm. Well, that wraps up this show here. I can't speak here at the end. It's been a long, long day. But yeah, Phillies again go 4-2. We both predicted a 4-2 week. We're also predicting a series sweep against the Chicago
Yes,
White Sox
and
here.
it's a much due sweep. Phillies could use a
Yeah,
sweep to get a little
yeah,
roll, and you have the
agree.
Tigers come. I know they're playing bad. They're playing putrid right now, the Tigers, but
Yeah.
Their offense overperformed some of these guys. Zach McKinstry, guys like that. Gleyber Torres had a great first half. Javi Baez, I don't expect it. That guy to continue doing what he was doing. They had a hot first half,
Mhm.
but they still have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball.
Yep. And then Thursday
And
is the trade deadline.
we're probably getting skewed ball Friday, I would think.
Yeah, I think so too. That's what it's looking like. So Scooble on Friday, which I'm looking forward to that. But again, trade deadline.
You think they'll move up Wheeler? Because Wheeler pitched today 3 games. It'd be traditional rest.
Right. That's a great question. I think they might.
Give Ranger an extra day.
I would give Ranger an extra day.
Give Ranger an extra day. Move up Wheeler. I'm sure Wheeler would be fine with pitching. It's not short rest. It's traditional rest. You're just
Yeah, and he likes that.
so.
Yeah.
And I think is it an Apple TV game?
It better not be. I'm done. I mean, I have it, but I hate it. The announcers are so bad.
If I was Apple TV, I'd want that as an Apple TV. I would want.
Of course,
I would want that
yeah.
game as especially if it's Wheeler. If it's Wheeler
Yeah.
Skewball, Ball, I want that. That's the game you want on national TV.
Of course.
Maybe we get ESPN call. Is it a Sunday night game?
Yeah,
it's like Sunday night game. I think
Mhm.
they picked it up. They picked that Sunday night game.
I'm pretty sure they did.
Maybe on ESPN. Hey, push Wheeler back to Sunday. Push Skewball back to Sunday.
Let's see. Tuesday.
I think I saw they were picking that game up.
7:00 at night. Yeah. Because why would you have a 6:45, 4:05, and then a 7:10 game on a Sunday? So it's definitely been picked up.
If it's 4:45.
No, I'm talking about. Oh no, Friday
is
6:40 is 6:45.
If it's 6:45, it's not.
Okay, good.
It's not an Apple TV game then.
Okay, good. All right, so we will be back here Thursday, which is the trade deadline, 6 p.m. on the 31st. I'm expecting baseball to really open up beginning tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if the Phillies are active tomorrow. I assume they're going to do something before the 31st, but we'll see. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, again, thank you so very much. We've gained over 700 subscribers in the last week and a half. So thank you very much. Again, like this video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, click the little ring the bell thing or ring that little bell on the bottom. If you're on your phone or on a desktop, that'll let you guys know and notify you when we're going live. Other than that, thank you so very much. We really do appreciate it. This has been Ring the Bell, your Philly show. That's Johnny Mac. I am Chrissy Francesco. We'll catch you guys down the road. Have a great one, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.